So what drugs do regarding neurons, because they do more than that, but with neurons, they basically decide, you could say, if a neuron is going to be positive or negative. And when a neuron is positive, it means that it is more responsive and more likely to generate electrical signals, and that's when it's positively charged. And when a neuron is negatively charged, so that also means it has more negative ions inside the neuron, it is less responsive to new stimuli, and is not gonna generate electrical signals. So what drugs do is, in the short term, they change this. For example, you take a drug, it's gonna make you way more responsive, and then you take this and you take it like every day for a month or even a year. You take it for a year. Let's say you take it for a year, a drug that is making you more responsive, is making your neurons charge more positively than negatively, and this drug, then you stop taking this drug. But your body already learned that you are going to take this drug every day, so it's trying to compensate against this drug, basically, because the body is trying to stay stable. So the body is going to then produce way more negatively charged ions to balance this out. So once you stop taking this drug that makes all the neurons positive, or more neurons positive, the body still produces way more negative ions than positive ions, inversing the effect of the drug, basically. And this is then the withdrawal symptoms that people have, and this is not just a bad feeling, but if you really took it for a long time, depending on the drug, also there are drugs that it's right from the first time, but if you took it for a long time, then your body can also really harm itself when you stop taking this drug, because then it overreacts because you don't use this drug in that moment. And as an example right now, I would have alcohol. Alcohol basically does two things. When you drink it, it's not the alcohol itself, it's the ethanol inside the alcohol. And this basically makes the GABA receptors, which let in negative ions, which make the neuron negative. It makes these GABA receptors open longer so that the neurons are more negatively charged, which makes the neurons less responsive to stimuli, and of course also the human less responsive to stimuli. At the same time, the alcohol or the ethanol makes the glue or the glutamate receptors close sooner or more quickly, so that less positive ions, because in the glutamate receptors there are positive ions that get in, and in the GABA receptors there's negative ions getting in. So it makes the glutamate receptor close sooner, so that there's also less positive ions getting in. So alcohol basically means that you get more negative ions and less positive ions. And then that leads to alcoholism, because after a while of drinking, like if you do it once in a while, that's not going to happen. But if you really get accustomed to drinking alcohol like every day or multiple times a week, then the body gets used to this and tries to inverse this by producing more positive ions and less negative ions, or at least more positive ions. And then when you stop drinking, you really need the alcohol, because otherwise your body is not stable anymore, because then your body has way too much positive ions and way too little negative ions in comparison. So then you really need the drug to get stable. Then of course you can always drink less, but you cannot just stop from one day to another. If you're like an alcoholic for multiple years or even decades, then you cannot just stop from one day to another.